Imagine for a moment that the history books were only half right, that the narrative of your existence did not begin with a struggle for survival, but with a sophisticated, divine intelligence that predicted the very struggle itself. There is a truth that has been intentionally obscured, a secret hidden in the marrow of your bones and the depth of your subconscious. Your ancestors dreamed of the Middle Passage long before the first hull of a slave ship ever touched the Atlantic. They saw the cold iron of the chains in their sleep. They felt the sting of the lash across their spirits before it ever met their skin. And they heard the rhythmic cries of their unborn children, echoing in their prayers decades before those children were ever conceived. When they woke, they did not simply weep. They documented. They recorded these revelations in journals that their captors lacked the spiritual literacy to decode. They wove these warnings into spirituals that the overseer dismissed as simple, songs about a distant heaven, and they buried these maps in oral traditions that an arrogant empire labeled as mere superstition.
But these are the roots of the ancestors.
But what the world calls superstition, the Creator calls prophecy. That same divine early warning system, that ancestral frequency of foresight, is pulsing through your blood at this very moment. Whether you have chosen to acknowledge it or not, you are not experiencing random flashes of intuition. You are witnessing the active covenant of your life. Oppression has many tools, but it lacks the power to deactivate what was ignited in the womb by a higher authority. We must understand that the systems of this world were not merely designed to break the physical body. They were engineered to blind the spirit. History reveals that a people who can see the future through their dreams are a people who can never truly be enslaved. When an empire encounters a power it cannot control, it seeks to pathologize it. They called it a coincidence. When your grandmother dreamed of a transition before the telephone ever rang. They labeled it sleep paralysis. When you felt the weight of a spiritual presence trying to show you a coming shift, they called it anxiety. When you saw a room in your sleep and walked into that exact physical space 3 years later. However, the ancient texts offer a different diagnosis. They call this the spirit of prophecy, and it has served as the single most consistent marker of a remnant people throughout human history. If we look at the patterns of the past, we see that a famine of hearing is often followed by an outpouring of sight. In the closing chapters of this current age, there is a promise that the Spirit will be poured out upon all flesh. Where sons and daughters will prophesy, the elderly will dream dreams, and the young will see visions. It is critical to notice the order of this distribution. This gift is not bypass authenticated by fancy titles, seminary degrees, or institutional gatekeepers. It is being downloaded into the sons and daughters, the marginalized, and those whose bloodlines have been refined in the furnace of affliction. These are the individuals carrying a weight that is finally reaching its expiration date. To navigate the present, we must master the Joseph pattern. At 17, Joseph began receiving digital downloads of his future elevation. While he was still effectively a slave to his circumstances, he saw stars bowing and sheaves of grain paying homage. And every time he shared the vision, those who should have been his protectors tried to silence him. They threw him into a pit. They sold him into a deeper form of bondage. They characterized his dreams as arrogance and a threat to the established order. Does this sound familiar to your own journey? Joseph's response was to keep dreaming. While the wise men of the empire were scrambling to interpret the signs of their own decline, it was the man in the prison, the slave, the dreamer, who held the key to the survival of the nation. The history of liberation is, in fact, a history of dreaming. Harriet Tubman did not possess a compass. She possessed what she called consultations with the divine. She dreamed the routes, she saw the safe houses in her sleep, and she knew which masters were restless before she ever stepped foot on their land. Nat Turner saw visions of celestial battles before he ever led a rebellion. Denmark Vesey dreamed of a city where freedom was the atmosphere long before he drafted his plans. These were not the products of trauma-induced anxiety, though trauma was certainly the backdrop. These were strategic prophetic downloads, provided to those whom the world had attempted to silence. When physical sight is restricted by unjust laws and iron chains, spiritual sight is amplified. This is not a glitch in your biology. It is a feature of your covenant. Consider the fall of empires. Egypt stood for 3 millennia, Yet the moment they hardened their hearts against this divine signal, their dynasty became a footnote. Babylon thought its hanging gardens were eternal until a hand wrote a message on a wall that was decoded by a dreamer. Rome's bloodsport arenas and campaigns of expansion became its own epitaph. The pattern is undeniable. We are seeing a modern manifestation of this gift accelerating across the globe. Since 2020, there has been a collective awakening. People are dreaming of floods in apartments they have yet to rent, seeing police encounters verbatim before they happen, and waking up in a cold sweat only to see their dreams reflected in 4K resolution on the evening news months later. The medical community may call this trauma processing, but for the remnant, it is the Spirit of God declaring that the birth pains have begun. The science is beginning to catch up to the spiritual reality, though it will never admit the full scope of the truth. Studies on precognition at major institutions now show that individuals dream of future events at a rate that defies statistical probability. They whisper about the properties of melanin, or the electrical potential of the pineal gland. And while there may be biological components, the real answer is found in the promise that God sees the oppression of His people and downloads the knowing into vessels positioned to receive it. While the curse of old included madness and confusion of heart, the restoration includes the pouring out of the Spirit without measure. You are not losing your mind. You are carrying a gift that the world was designed to make you reject. We must distinguish between vengeful imagination and prophetic warning. A dream born of the flesh seeks destruction with glee, but a dream born of the Spirit breaks your heart and drives you to your knees in intercession. Joseph did not rejoice at the famine. He prepared for it. Daniel did not celebrate the fall of kings. He warned them. Every true dreamer in history, from Ida B. Wells to Martin Luther King Jr., was brokenhearted even in their hope. If your dreams make you arrogant, they are not from the source. If they make you more dependent on divine guidance and more committed to building for your people, they are the covenant gift. Your dreams are revealing the moves on a chessboard that the media and political theater try to hide. Empires think they are playing three-dimensional chess with your future, but your dreams allow you to see 10 steps ahead. The real reason they attempt to cut you off from your subconscious is not because dreams are scary, but because they are strategic. Every major liberation movement was preceded by a season of intense dreaming. Therefore, the question is not whether you are receiving the signal, but whether you are recording it. Are you writing the vision and making it plain? Are you praying it through in exile? Are you sharing it with a trusted circle of witnesses? The purpose of these prophetic dreams is to position you with the right resources at the precise moment. They are needed. Joseph didn't dream of famine to induce panic. He dreamed so he could store grain. Harriet Tubman didn't dream of freedom to admire the concept. She dreamed to become the conductor. Your wilderness is not a tomb. It is a womb. It is the classroom of the Spirit, where you are being downloaded with the blueprints for what is coming next. The enemy of your soul knows this, which is why the attacks on your mind have been so severe. The constant noise of social media and the sedation of modern entertainment are designed to keep you from deep sleep, from the REM state where the most vital information is transferred. A generation that dreams is a generation that cannot be controlled. In the ancient courts, dream interpretation was a secret reserved for the elite, but today, it is being given to those the world calls least of all. These dreams are not just showing you doom. They are showing you the inheritance, the land, the restoration, and the great possessions that follow the 400-year cycle. Every empire built on the backs of the oppressed is currently showing cracks. And every time you close your eyes and see a future event, you are being handed a piece of the strategy to navigate the collapse. This restoration of dream language is the restoration of your strategic advantage. For centuries, we have tried to build while blindfolded, but as that blindfold is removed, you will see the face of the Creator and the layout of the chessboard simultaneously. Revelation without strategy, however, is merely anxiety. That is why these dreams come in layers: shock, understanding, assignment, and finally authority. When Daniel interpreted the king's dream, he wasn't just offering an opinion. He was operating in a jurisdiction of authority. He spoke as one who had been in the council chambers of heaven. You are moving from being a consumer of revelation to being a conduit of it. If you have visions that haven't manifested yet, Remember that the delay is part of the strategy. The vision is for an appointed time, and though it tarries, you must wait for it. Often, what looks like a failed prophecy is a postponed promise, waiting for the remnant to be properly positioned. This is why community is non-negotiable. You cannot interpret the full picture alone. Joseph needed the butler. Daniel needed his 3 friends. Esther needed Mordecai. Your dream is a piece of a puzzle. That only makes sense when connected to other dreamers. The economic war we see today, inflation, housing crises, wealth gaps, is the visible front of a spiritual battle. Your dreams of currency devaluations or market collapses are invitations to position yourself. The first dream is a warning, the second is provision, and the third is the blueprint for how you become the source of provision for others. This is the Joseph anointing. It is about managing the transfer of resources so that they serve the purpose of the covenant, rather than the greed of the empire. As you move forward, your character must keep pace with your gift. Joseph was faithful in the dark of the prison, before he was trusted, with the light of the palace. Holiness is not about perfection. It is about the consistency of your obedience. The same dream that elevates you will also test you. Do not let your pain turn you into a Saul who seeks shortcuts. Let it turn you into a Samuel who hears clearly. Tonight, before you sleep, set the intention to honor the signal. Keep a physical journal, not a digital one, by your bed. Writing by hand slows the mind and allows the spirit to speak. Record the colors, the emotions, and the specific words. Do not edit or analyze in the moment. Simply record. The interpretation will come through prayer, through the word, and through your counsel. You are finding your assignment in the middle of a shifting world. The wilderness is ending, the provision is emerging, and the dreams you thought were nightmares are actually the birth pains of your restoration. The clock is ticking, and the nations are about to need exactly what you carry. You are not at the bottom of the hierarchy. You are at the top of the communication chain. It is time to wake up, write it down, and move with the authority of the dreamer who knows the end of the story.